When you play Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles, you make all the decisions, but did you ever see this option down here? What's this at the bottom? Auto Battle. Usually, this is reserved for grinding to level 99 or maxing out your job points, but then I asked, what happens if you didn't just use this to grind? What would happen if you just let the AI do all the work? Would it make the same decisions you would? Or better ones? Hi, I'm Mikey, and that's exactly what I did. Here's how it went. Here are the ground rules I set up for myself. I am starting off at Knight difficulty. If I win 3 battles in a row, then I crank up the difficulty to Tactician. Conversely, if I lose 3 battles in a row, then I lower the difficulty down a notch. Otherwise, once I set my commands at the very start of the fight, there is no intervening, and I must see the battle through to the end. Starting off in Chapter 1 was a bit rough, and I had to turn down the difficulty right off the bat. Once the females switched to chemists, they concentrated on grinding until they were able to get auto potion. This reaction ability is a literal lifesaver, and everyone should acquire auto potion as early as possible. So how did this initial ability grind help us in our first big challenge, Dorter? Well, it did okay. Eventually. Up to this point, we had been using auto battle in Mandalia Plains against monsters only, so watching the AI try to work its way around a pair of black mages was entertaining. Up next, our original nemesis, Ygraf, in Fafalham Windflats. Having to face a Divine Knight is an eye-opening experience at this point in the game, but we are able to persevere. On to the chapter finale. Again, a bit of a struggle at first. Our troop loadout wasn't ideal for the fight, and a couple of changes later, we managed to bring down the little twerp Argath once and for all, smashing his face as if it was the like button. One chapter down on Tactician difficulty with just the auto battle. In Chapter 2, for the casters, my focus was on getting enough Time Mage job points to gain Mana Shield, and enough Mystic job points to gain Mana Font. For the guys, our goal was to unlock Samurai and Ninja jobs. The time we've spent as a thief has given us Move +2, while we spent our Monk job points on Chakra and Brawler. For the chapter's challenges, the Gafgarian fights were less tough than I anticipated. The Gallows fight had its moments of excitement before ultimately being conquered. Fighting Gafgarian solo was a bit drawn out and eventually needed an intervention for Ramza to actually engage with his rival. Our generic squad were handling the guards outside the gate just fine on their own. Inside the keep, our first Lucavi encounter was a complete pushover. Having protect rings equipped on all of our party members forced Kuklain to use long-casting spells and opened him up to immediate, overwhelming assaults from our melee troops. We are now roughly halfway through the game and have only had a few rough patches where we needed to retry our luck. Chapter 3 is ahead of us now, and like the previous chapter, our main challenge lies at the very end. While making my way through the Chapter 3 story battles, I aim to gain the main arithmetician abilities on my casters, count time, and multipliers of 4 and 5. We are also going to want to come into the chapter's end having learned Dual Wield and Shirahadori for all of our melee fighters. Once we got to the big boss battle, it became obvious very quickly that we were going to need to turn down the difficulty since no matter the job and equipment combination, we weren't going to survive Ygraf's wrath. Funny enough, once we turned down the difficulty to Knight, we got through the fight in one go. Dealing with Ivalice was a reminder of how powerful arithmetics can be. A perfectly timed Graviga saw the day through and pulverized the demon boss. Up ahead on the rooftop, another famous battle awaits. We were able to survive the initial onslaught before a swift and deadly counterattack secured our triumph. 3 chapters down, and I haven't had to manually control a single fight. At this point, I'm itching to finish the game, as there is way more behind us than in front of us. The fight against Meliadul in Brevenia took more than one attempt, with some clever deployment and relying on arithmetics to bring her down. Our next big fight was Limberry Castle, where we could not get past the gate on Tactician difficulty. The assassins proved to just be too strong, and we couldn't get the AI to focus fire them. Only by reducing their damage with a lower difficulty did we find an opportunity to rush down one of them and win the fight. Inside the castle was a completely different matter. Slowly but surely did our squad survive the initial assaults from Elendor and his lieutenants. And eventually, after many revives, we were able to get out a few well-calculated spells and bring the Silver Demon down. Downstairs in the Undercroft, we held firm against the onslaught of Zalera's magic. After disposing of the ads, our mages focused on the boss with waves of Graviga. We kept our difficulty set at night for the next fight against Dysadarg and Adremelech at Egros Castle, and ended up breezing through it. Next up, we have our short fight sequence in Muland, and we've now turned the difficulty back up to Tactician for our fight against the Knights Templar. After dancing around the room, Ramza wakes up from a re-raise and immediately brings one of the Templar into critical to win the battle. This brings us now to the final stage of the game, Orban. This was it, do or die time. And at first, it was do time. Then it was die time. So after some very frustrating fights in Lost Haladom, we decided to back out to the world map and lower the difficulty. Luckily, we swept through the final battles on night difficulty, and we saw the conclusion to our playthrough. Hooray! Yeah, that was an experience. A first, actually, in the way I play Final Fantasy Tactics. So, what did I think about the full auto battle playthrough? Was it fun? Yeah, actually. It feels like you're a sports team coach and you need to manage your team and let them do the performing. I think I've actually gotten used to auto battle at the end of the day. Moving forward, I'll be using a mix of auto battle for grinding or getting through a stage I just don't want to pay attention to. I would like to try the auto battle to max out XP and job points for sure, but then returning to manual mode to quickly and decisively execute bosses. Let me know in the comments what you think of letting the AI take over. Is this completely heretical like our boy Ramza? Or is it somewhat intriguing and you're drawn to it like Dysadarg to the Zodiac Stone? Subscribe to the channel if you like this sort of stuff. Like and share the video to help it grow, and I will see you all in the next one. Be well, everyone.